Welcome back. This is episode 51 of the Collin Curtis in the Morning Show. I almost called it the PSNstores show.
That's all right.
Well, this been a weird day. We're in a whole new. It's a whole new world.
We're in a world where Super Mario Run exists.
Oh my goodness. I don't even. I went so basically I was like, I'm not gonna watch this Apple thing because I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to start making food, and in the process of cooking, I just kind of looked over at my computer and noticed like a bunch of tweets just going like Megaton, and I'm like, oh god, what happened? And I just started like scrolling through, and I just start seeing pictures of Mario on an iPhone and Miyamoto on stage, and I'm just like, what? But at the same time, like it was gonna happen. We were headed there. We were headed in that direction. Of just maybe having a little sooner than expected, it would seem. But anyways, this episode is brought to you by the word interoperability. Interoperability.
What do they sponsor? Like they sponsor us, but what's our read? Do we have like a thing that we have to read for them?
No.
Oh.
So, Collin, we've been putting off this discussion for a while because it's like, well, we don't really know much about. I mean, we kind of knew, and actually, I guess it turns out we knew the specs, but we didn't really know how Sony was going to position this new piece of hardware that was announced earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really, we didn't know what the price was going to be. We didn't know when it was coming out. We had some pretty good guesses, and I think in general, most people kind of got the pricing nailed down. It seems, but it was one of those things that we've talked briefly about and said, well, let's wait until it's formally announced and then we'll just go in.
Sure.
And so let's talk about it. The PlayStation 4 Slim. No. So today was the PlayStation meeting earlier today in New York City. Andrew House and Mark Cerny both were the two people from Sony, if I remember correctly. There's some third party people up there as well, but Andrew House took the stage at first. The stream started and it showed like a logo and it looked like we were going into a montage and then like flickered out and it was just a stage and then the lights dimmed and then they came back up and Andrew House was there on the left side.
So no opening montage.
No, surprisingly
not a PlayStation conference.
Well, we did get a montage just later on.
Okay.
So it looked like they were going into one and then it just didn't happen. So it was weird. But anyways, Andrew House takes the stage and makes the first crucial mistake of the PlayStation meeting. Collin, do you want to take a guess at what it may have been?
I don't. So I was watching part of this. I wasn't able to. I was actually in class and I had it open, but I wasn't able to listen to it. So I'm gonna guess he didn't turn his mic on.
No, but someone did have that issue.
I saw someone had that issue at some point.
There was no acknowledgement of the leak, which I found surprising.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's something that Sony has done in the past, and it's not a big deal, but I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like you kind of set the tone, right?
Sure.
Going in, like, starting at right off the bat, like, and I think, I don't know, I think it would have been, this has really no impact on anything, to be honest, like, but part of me wishes that he would have just had one little throwaway line. Because everyone knew. It's like, it would have been, like, I don't know, I think it lightens the mood a little bit. It kind of makes it feel a little bit, a little less stiff, I guess, as far as a meeting is concerned. And it's just like, we get it. We know you guys know, but we got to get through this, But instead, he just kind of, he just hit all the points. Talked about their success over this generation and introduced the kind of new model of the PlayStation 4. It's not called the Slim or anything like that. It's just the PlayStation 4, and it is the thing that leaked about a month ago. A little under a month ago. Collin, it is going to be available starting September 15th in most areas, and it will be $299.
I think that's a pretty good price. I think that's for people that want to jump into PlayStation 4, this new generation. I think that's where you get it at.
And so that marks a $50 price cut.
Yep.
From where it was at originally, so far it was at $349. Now it is down to $300. And you'll see the original model phased out. This new model will kind of take its place, and that'll be that. And yeah, it's, you know, everything during this meeting really kind of fell into place. Of like, yep, this is kind of what we expected, or yeah, this is what we had guessed, or yeah, the rumor was this, and as it turns out, it is indeed what the rumor was saying, like what rumors were saying about both hardwares. And so yeah, you know, you have like going to this holiday, it's like, hey, if you don't have a PS4, guess what? They're $300, and on Black Friday, they're probably going to be a little bit cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that's a really good entry point. So there's that. They kind of wasted very little time to get that out of the way, and then went straight in to the big one. So they talked about, Andrew House talked a little bit about wanting to continue to provide something for the more hardcore user, the people who are an experience unlike any other. So he led straight into the PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, Collin, you might be asking,
what is the PlayStation 4 Pro, Curtis?
Well, let me tell you, the PlayStation 4 Pro is the Neo. It's what we've been hearing about for about 6 months now.
Okay.
It is a better version of the PlayStation 4.
A groundbreaking achievement.
A groundbreaking
hardware
achievement.
And graphical design.
Featuring interoperability between the original PlayStation 4 and the Neo, the PlayStation 4 Pro.
So that word came from Mark Cerny's mouth, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So Mark Cerny, the god himself,
yes,
took the stage and to talk about the PlayStation 4 Pro and some of the design philosophies behind this new product, much like he did at the original PlayStation meeting, talking about the PS4. He is still just a smooth talker. He like that guy.
Cool.
Just get him to talk about anything, and you just I could just listen to him. Doesn't even matter what the topic is. Like he is far more intelligent than any of us will ever be. But also, man, you just listen to him for hours. So maybe that helps. I don't know. But one of the things, because he talked about a number of different things. He talked about its use for 4K televisions. He talked about its use for HDR. He talked about how, like, if you just have a traditional HD TV, like, that's fine too. And we'll get to it because there are things that you will notice that are better visually, even if you don't have a 4K TV. And because they got into that a little bit. And then he threw around the word, like, interoperability. Kind of the thing is like, yeah, you know, it's using this, it's the same game disc, it's the same generation, right? It's just that, hey, if you put Final Fantasy 15 into your PlayStation 4 Pro, it's going to be a little better. It's going to run a little better. Might look a little better. Things like that. And so they talked about, like, forward compatibility, which we'll get to in a little bit. There's a list of games out there that will be supporting PlayStation 4 Pro or that will launch with a PlayStation 4 Pro in mind. Okay. And those are some games coming up in the next couple of months that do that. So we'll get into that. And just a number of different things. They showed off some video footage of games like Horizon Zero Dawn. What was it? They showed Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Sorry,
I saw part of Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man was the very first game.
Okay,
not like gameplay or anything. Just kind of a pan over of a street. They showed Spider-Man in the suit, and they're like, "Look at the textures on Spider-Man's suit." Stuff like that. Rise of the Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. What else? Call of Duty a little bit. They got into, like, Mass Effect Andromeda. They showed... So, like, okay, Collin, like, listen, EA and, I mean, I guess this was on Sony's stage this time. I feel like every time we see Mass Effect Andromeda, it's, like, just a very small incremental step towards gameplay.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And today was, like, the first time I feel like we saw something that will actually be in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's going to take another couple years at this rate before we actually see a gameplay demo of Mass Effect Andromeda, because God.
Because even like, I don't know if that is Mass Effect, but there wasn't even like a UI like at all when the guy was playing. I don't know if there's usually like a UI all over I can't remember if there's like a UI all over the place,
it said like in the bottom corner it was like pre-alpha or something.
Sure.
Like the game supposedly is like coming out spring of next year. I don't necessarily believe that, but we'll see. We'll see. So they showed that. They showed a few other different games, and kind of, on the 4K end, you can kind of expect what that might mean. Obviously, these games aren't necessarily running natively at 4K, but we'll get into that in a little bit as well. Talking about HDR and things like that, and actually they used Paragon as an example of if you're just playing on a 1080p HD TV, what does that mean for you? Is this something that is the PlayStation Pro even for you? In Paragon, they had a flyover base, or not a flyover. They had like the camera panned like a little bit, and they showed this area on a map, and then they did one of those like the lines coming across where it's like, here's the original, and then the line comes across and it shows on PlayStation 4 Pro.
Yeah.
And that to me was watching on a stream on YouTube, which is just inherently not going to really show that great of a difference. Collin, I'm going to link you to a tweet that shows this Paragon thing, and we'll put it in the show notes as well. This is a pretty good difference. It's not like mind-blowing or anything, but I think if you look at that and it's like, yeah, this is the type of difference that you would expect if you just got a regular HDTV, not 4K
sure.
or anything. You look at that and it's like, yep, totally.
Yeah,
awesome.
The lighting's definitely.
Yep. So that was really cool, and then from there, they didn't really announce any new games. I think we've seen, I don't know if I want to call it like a lot of backlash. I've definitely seen some people who were not happy with the PlayStation meeting, and I wonder if maybe it was just people's expectations went a little too wild.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it like that, because I don't mean for it to sound like it's your fault, right? Or like it's the consumer's fault for being too excited.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think if, hindsight's 2020, I think if you look back, about a month ago, these invites for a PlayStation meeting went out. Okay? It wasn't actually officially announced until yesterday. The day before, via a blog post that was like one paragraph long.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if, Sony really wasn't... It's not like they were out there for a month hyping this event up, teasing a ton of big announcements. It wasn't like they were hyping it up like they would an E3 press conference or PlayStation Experience or a Gamescom or a Paris Games Week or Tokyo Game Show, even to some extent. It was just like, yeah, by the way, this is happening. And of course the press were invited because you want them to come and see your new hardware. And I think you stream it, because if you don't stream it, people get upset that you're not streaming it, so then you stream it. And so, in general, I mean, as I watched the whole thing, it was about 40 minutes long, one of their shorter presentations in recent memory, and I was like, you know what, yeah, like, I feel like they did what they needed to do. They gave me the information I wanted to know. I said earlier, not on this recording or anything, talking to someone else, I was like, there are 3 things that I wanted to know going into this. I wanted to know when it was coming out, how much it was going to cost, and I was curious about how they were going to pitch it alongside the regular PS4, and how it was going to be positioned. And I feel like they answered all 3 of those questions, and I was pretty satisfied with the answers I got, to be honest. So first off, it is coming out November 10th. So later than what both you and I kind of predicted.
Yeah.
But still this year, and coming out in the time frame you would need to come out in, and it's going to be $400, $399.
Yep.
Which I think is a great price.
I think so too. You're just pricing it the same price as the launch PS4. I think that's a good idea.
So, Collin, I'm wondering. So, like, I think when this rumor first hit with this thing, there was maybe this concern of, like, oh no, are we going to get left behind? And I don't feel that anymore. I actually feel quite the opposite. I kind of feel like, no, the Pro's going to be its little thing. It's going to be kind of a smaller scale. Like, it's not going to reach the 40 million that we're at right now for PS4s, or above that at this point. And it's not. I don't expect a year from now games to come out and suddenly run really bad on the regular PS4. You know what I mean? I don't think like there's ever going to be a point where games stop performing well on the base PS4 model.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, I don't think that, like, I think if you were worried about that, if you were scared about that, like, I don't think that's going to come to pass. And so instead, what we have is an upgrade that is certainly incremental. It's not a massive upgrade in the way that Scorpio could be a year from now. But it is enough that there is definitely a difference. There's certainly a difference, and I think the most fascinating thing that we'll just have to wait and see. It's not really necessarily something that they can talk to us about and show us on stage, is how it affects VR, and also just going forward. Like, I think it'd be interesting 6 months from now to sit down and look at every game that's coming out from this point on, or starting in October and onward, and see what those games are like as far as their options, we'll say. So really briefly, and then there's a few things I want to get into. Collin, what are your general thoughts on this this PlayStation 4 Pro? A system for the bros, I would say. A
system for the bros, okay.
PlayStation 4 Pro.
The bros of this Pro, I don't know. The pros of this Pro, I don't know. I think it's fine. I like it. I will probably get one at some point, but honestly, right now, I'm not really reaching into my pocket for my wallet to pull out money for this thing. I don't know. I need to go back and watch the whole conference. I maybe saw like 75% of it.
Yeah.
But as of just what I'm hearing and what I've seen, this doesn't make me want to upgrade just because Horizon Zero Dawn will look that much better on my PS4. I'm a person who, I'll admit, I'm a person who loves graphics or whatever. Like, I love seeing things like in the highest detail. I love I still think Metal Gear Solid 4 is a fantastic looking game, and it's on the PS3. But I just can't see myself upgrading to the new hardware right now just for those kind of features. I feel like, and you can fill me in if they did, and you were kind of touching on it just a little bit. Did they not really talk about how the Pro will interact with VR at all? Because I thought they would.
Vaguely at best. So Mark Cerny, I don't remember exactly the wording he used. And Farpoint is actually a game that was at the meeting that people got to play on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and heard some positive things from a couple people, but not necessarily. Well, certain people within the industry that I would be like, well, I don't expect you to say anything negative about this, but it's cool to hear something. It's cool to see that you are excited about it. I don't remember the wording he used, but I think it was talking about like just more detail, better like a visual quality, just kind of stuff like that. And that is something that, again, like for me, Collin, as somebody who recently got back from GameStop after pre-ordering this thing.
I love how it's this thing.
Yeah, I hopefully, if I'm able to get VR close to or at launch, I'll have like a month or so with VR on the original PS4. And then when I get the PlayStation 4 Pro, I'll be able to make that switch, and I'll be able to see. I would imagine, after spending a month with VR and then switching to this Pro, I'd imagine the difference will ideally become pretty clear. And so that's still something that they didn't really touch on too much, but I think I anticipate, like, that was one of the things, is like one of the 3 or 4 different things that has got me had got me out to pre-order the PlayStation 4 Pro was just kind of the knowledge that, like, yeah, like VR is probably going to be one of the things that benefits the most from this. So there's that, and then also Final Fantasy 15 looks. I know
great. You're gonna be all set. You're gonna have
Collin.
You're gonna have your Pro
in the middle of this VR thing. They put out a montage, you might call it.
I think I saw
of some different games. And they later uploaded to YouTube, and so again, YouTube compression. Just watch that. I watched the part. There's like 5 seconds of Final Fantasy 15 footage, and good God. Is there specifically a part where he's riding a chocobo through like a forest, or not necessarily a large forest, but there's some trees, and it's just there's so much more density. Like, there's just so much more, it feels like. I mean, it's not like the craziest, most mind-blowing difference between the two. But I want Final Fantasy 15 at its best possible state when it comes out in November. And considering there is no PC version announced, like, come on.
Yeah, that's going to be your high-end version right there.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing, maybe this just leads right into it. So, Nioh, the Nioh game, not to be confused with the code name for this.
Yeah.
The Nioh Alpha and Beta has demonstrated options. I think it's action and cinematic are the two options given. And basically, in action mode, you would have graphics that maybe weren't as good, but it would be running at 60 frames per second or around there. And then cinematic mode would have, I think, a fluctuating frame rate, somewhere like between 30 and 60 or something, or maybe closer to 30. But its graphics would be increased. And so you'd have this option of what would you want? Do you want better graphics or you want a better frame rate? And I was like, I think many people, especially when you consider that it was the alpha initially came out not long after these Nioh leaks started to happen. There's a lot of discussion about, interesting. I wonder if there will be other games that offer options like this. Mm-hmm. As it turns out, Colin, there are. There is at least one other game, Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, has 3 options. It has a 4K mode, which just 4K mode. There wasn't a whole lot of details, I guess. 1080p high frame rate, and so that has the game running at I guess targeting 60, but it kind of fluctuates between 45 and 60.
Yeah, or
something. And then there's 1080p bells and whistles, so it's 30 FPS locked with kind of every processing technique.
For all you non-bros
out there. Yeah. Everyone else can be playing 4K mode. No, so I thought that was interesting, and I'm very curious to see, maybe Final Fantasy 15 will have something similar. Maybe Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
Maybe.
So they did put out a list of released games thus far that will have a patch available day one. And this includes Deus Ex Mankind Divided, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Killing Floor 2, Uncharted 4, Infamous First Light, which I wonder if it's just First Light or you would think that they would also have Second Light there.
See, I saw that, Second Son.
Second Son, yes.
Yeah, I thought that was weird just to have First Light. Like, I feel like especially that game out of any of the other games that you're going to finish reading, I felt like that's the one that's like, isn't the time kind of passed on that game? Like, everybody's probably already played it, but then it's already been a PlayStation Plus title, so probably people have already played it there.
I think just from they were pushing it from the HDR angle. Mm-hmm. So just like lighting and color wise, it would just really, I guess it would pop more visually. Yeah, it would shine, if you will. The neon would really, they really put the Neo in neon, if you will.
Yes.
So I see why, certainly. But also, I think Mark Cerny, I don't remember the number. He threw out a number of how many first-party titles, and they certainly did not announce anywhere close to the number that he gave. I think it was in the teens. I don't remember exactly what it was. But anyways, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, Paragon, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare Remastered, and then Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and then that leads into the unreleased games that they've announced thus far, which includes Infinite Warfare, Spider-Man, For Honor, Watch Dogs 2, Days Gone, Farpoint, Horizon Zero Dawn, Mass Effect Andromeda, Final Fantasy 15, Dishonored 2, and Skyrim Special Edition. Now, pretty much every other rumor has proven true at this point, and I think the one that should be pointed out is basically there was a rumor that Sony mandated that basically if you were coming out from October on, that you would need to have Neo incorporated stuff in your game. So they didn't really speak to that today. Yeah. They actually talked more openly as if it was more of a suggestion to developers, but it seemed like they're like, yeah, everyone's jumping on and we're all excited. So I don't know. You would think that would be something you'd want to say, but at the same time, there were other things like improved frame rate that they just didn't mention on stage.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the big information that's out. But Colin, I'm gonna say this. So like, I went out and I put money down on this thing, and I'm excited about it. I think it's cool. You know, can't wait to try out certain games, especially Final Fantasy 15 for one. That's gonna be exciting. I think it'll be cool to. I don't know if I'll trade in my other PS4 towards it or not. I think right now you're looking at least 125. That was there was a picture that GameStop's Twitter account tweeted out.
Oh, sure.
So, you know, sure. I don't know. I haven't made a decision yet. If I do end up keeping it, it would be cool to do kind of some comparison videos if possible. Have to figure out the logistics of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, if somebody came up and asked me, hey, do you think I should upgrade to the Pro? If they were asking me if they should upgrade, I don't think I'd recommend it.
Yeah.
If it was someone who doesn't, if you're someone who does not have a PS4 right now and you want to get one in this holiday season, it being only $100 more, I think it would end up coming down to how you feel about that, because it's not that much more expensive, kind of in the grand scheme of things, I guess. So if that's not a big deal, if that $100 isn't a big deal, I kind of feel like, well, you might as well just get that one.
Yeah.
Because then at least you have, even if you don't have a 4K TV, you still are going to benefit from certain little additions, you know, things like that. So there's that angle. But at the same time, hey, if you don't want to spend that much, there is a $300 option. So I wouldn't necessarily at this very moment be like, yes, you should go buy this. Even though I'm someone who will be getting it day one. But I would say that I think what has been shown and talked about is interesting and kind of encouraging in some ways, I think. I don't think that there's necessarily anything that they talked about that I just kind of shook my head at and was like, oh, what are you guys doing? Mm-hmm. I know some people are not happy that it doesn't play Ultra HD Blu-rays or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't, like, what? I guess that's a big deal. Like, is that a big deal? Do you think that's a big deal?
I think so. I think that is somewhat a big deal because, like, when somebody wants this box to be like their home entertainment box, and so basically, it sounds like to me you can play 4K games on it, but you can't watch 4K movies. Which
you can't. Well, it's not going to play 4K like Blu-rays. But as far as like Netflix,
but you can stream.
So do you know about Netflix? Then, like, there's Netflix.
Yeah.
Like, there. So
you can.
There's
you can stream it.
And I guess the issue is also, like, there's not a lot of 4K content as far as, like, video streaming.
Sure.
Like, it's there. Yeah. It's getting better. Like, Netflix has it. I guess there's a YouTube app that they're working on for the PlayStation 4 Pro. But, like, I don't think there's that many, like, Ultra HD Blu-rays out there right now. Like,
I feel like the big blockbuster movies are.
I guess. I just don't. I don't know if they're really, like, doing that. Like, I don't know. It felt like I kind of get it. Like, I guess it's a weird omission. I just don't see it as being that big of a deal to me. I don't know.
I can see it for some people that, you know, want to go out and buy the Blu-rays or the 4K Blu-rays and even rent it or something. Like, yeah, you can stream it, but you can't put in a disc and watch it in 4K. Mm-hmm. It's a weird omission, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, you know, I won't probably buy any 4K Blu-rays. I mean, it's going to be a long time before I get a 4K TV.
Like, the thing is, like, I don't buy movies. Like, I rent them if nothing else, and even then, like, that's super rare.
Sure.
So it's something that doesn't bother me at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if that's something that they were able to save money on to hit that 400 price point, then, you know, have at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to mostly be playing video games on this anyways. But as I was saying, I think what, like I said before, and I think what would be very interesting, it's something that they can't really, like with a PlayStation 4 or with any new console, you can kind of buy in knowing that, yes, I am buying at a high entry price right now, right? Knowing that there will be price cuts in the years to come. That's just how console generations work. But if you buy in at launch, you kind of buy in on this understanding that a console cycle lasts for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And over those years, there's going to be hundreds of games, from first party to third party to indies, you name it. There's going to be a lot of games available on that console, right? And so you kind of buy into this investment over the years, knowing that over time, you know, that $400 or however much you bought at launch on that console, like, it's just going to kind of pay off over time. You know, you're going to have so many different games that you'll play over those years that's fine. I think the difference here, as far as the Pro is concerned, is like, this is something new. It's different. We don't really know how it's going to work out. It could be great. Like, we could be sitting here a year from now with a Scorpio imminent being like, man, this is like such a crazy new thing, but it's working out really well. Or it could be the opposite. And so that's why I think, again, like 6 months from now should be really interesting. You know, like May timeline, like going into E3, because then you've got you've got like a good chunk of time of like, okay, let's look back on Final Fantasy 15. Let's look back on Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Let's look back on maybe Battlefield 1. You would assume that might get a patch of some sort. Let's look at Horizon and For Honor.
I think they did.
Did they mention it?
I think the EA guy on stage said that FIFA and Battlefield
That's right.
1
yes, you're right.
would get a patch before
right.
Andromeda. Okay.
So like you can look back at those games and see, okay, how did it work out for those games? Like, were those patches like was it a noticeable increase? Was it something that you felt good about? And then, of course, if you don't get Pro like PS4 Pro this year, maybe come spring next year, you can look back and feel a little bit more confident about that purchase. Because right now we're kind of, even with this meeting, with as short as it was, with as little as they kind of showed, I don't know if they did I think they could have done a better job of trying to sell people on this.
Yeah, I think so.
And I don't think they did a terrible job of it, but I think that there was a lot of room for improvement in that area. And there's a lot of questions that are left unanswered, and some of which are things that we just aren't going to know until it happens. Like I think one of the burning questions, in a way, Colin, is what does Sony show during their press conferences from now on? Do they show footage captured from PlayStation 4 Pro, or do they show just the base unit? They're
gonna do what at least I saw from this entire thing.
Okay.
All they show is Horizon gameplay, For Honor. They show Days Gone, and they have that little blurb at the bottom that says running on PS4 Pro hardware. Some features may not be available if you do not have an Ultra HD TV or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that little line that was down there?
It was very noticeable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like every game that we're gonna get now, I feel like is gonna have that. Like,
do you think?
So
do you think like every PSX, E3, you name it, any Sony show? Do you think it's exclusively going to be PlayStation 4 Pro footage?
I think they will show the Pro like when we get to PSX and Ni no Kuni 2 gets shown off again. They're going to have that little blurb at the bottom that says running on PS4 Pro. That's what I feel like they're going to do.
So you want to make a prediction right now?
Yes.
That we get a Ni no Kuni 2 trailer at PSX this year.
That's yes. if only I will take that bet only if they do not show it at their TGS conference. Okay. If they don't show it at TGS, then I will take that bet that they will show it at PSX.
Or do you want to just say the next Ni no Kuni trailer we get if it's at a Sony press conference?
I will bet this even more. I will say the next any Sony exclusive.
Okay.
Any Sony exclusive that will be on stage will have that same caption that says running on PS4 Pro hardware. So the next time when they show
Tokyo
Horizon
Game Show next week.
Yeah, when they show...
You know what? Well, maybe we should hold off because the last half of this podcast will be TGS predictions.
Okay.
But remember that. Keep that in mind.
Okay. I'm keeping it.
Okay.
Locking it in the back of my mind.
Because that way we have time to think up stakes and stuff.
Oh, man. So I already lost one. I don't know if I want to lose another.
Oh, it's going to be great. I hope you're looking forward to that Resident Evil playthrough.
Oh, it's on my hard drive.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm going to die. I'm just going to die so much.
So, It'll be fine.
No.
I do want to read one quick quote. Sorry, and then we can maybe start to wrap this section up here. So Engadget posted an article. I think they were at this PlayStation meeting. They got to talk to some different developers, and it was a pretty positive article about the PlayStation 4 Pro in general. I'll have a link in the show notes. It was short, nothing too specific or anything. We talked a little bit about I think Shadows of Mordor, actually, really weirdly enough. I think a little Tomb Raider in there. But they were just kind of talking about how, maybe measure your expectations for what this is. It's not going to be native 4K gaming, or at least for most instances. But it was still kind of positive and hopeful on the future for PlayStation 4 Pro and where it could possibly lead and why it's a good thing in general. And one of the things they said is... there's a paragraph a couple paragraphs down. It goes, according to Peter Wise, who is a senior VP of production and development at Warner Brothers Interactive, there are two optimized rendering options available to PS4 Pro developers. The first is resolution mode, which lets them lock games into a resolution beyond 1080p. And there's a small anecdote from the writer. They enjoy 1440p for PC gaming. And then there's a quality mode, which on the other hand dynamically scales the resolution depending on the game or how the game is performing. So what I find interesting, and if you keep in mind Tomb Raider and Neo as well, with the options that are there for kind of scaling the game in whichever way you would like, I wonder, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I think within the next week we might start, now that it's out in the open, maybe developers will start opening up a bit more and talking openly about what this means. Because Collin, I am very interested in knowing, one, if this is an easy kind of implementation to make, and relatively easy. I'm not saying, it's just a flip of a switch, but I wonder what new challenges this brings to developers. And I would love to hear it from third party, first party, whoever. I would really be interested to know, what this means. I saw someone on Twitter, I don't remember what game they're working on. No, they're working on that Golem game for PlayStation VR.
Oh, okay.
And they were basically saying that it's not super complicated, at least for them. Their input was that it's actually not a super complicated thing. It's the same architecture. It's just a matter of, whatever you would need to do to make this look better and run better on PlayStation 4 Pro, which I found interesting. I think PlayStation 4's entire design philosophy has been ensuring that it is easy for developers to get a grasp on the system architecture and create games for it. And that, I have to imagine, was one part of many facets of the PS4's success so far. And so I'm super curious if they were able to keep in line with that kind of ease of development, or if PlayStation 4 Pro could be a misstep. Maybe it's a misstep. Maybe it makes things a lot harder on people. And that's, again, something that we'll just have to find out over time. But with that said, Collin, there's any closing thoughts now that PlayStation 4 Pro is out in the open? Now that we know what this thing is,
I don't know. I saw some guy yesterday on Twitter saying something like there wasn't going to be any Neo Pro talk, like PS4 Pro.
Oh,
I don't know who that idiot was.
Yeah, big dummy.
Yeah, it was a big dummy. But I can't really tell. I can't really read how Sony is maybe approaching this. Is it more of a thing that, hey, we're just going to put this out here, and if people respond to it, then great? Or is it hey, we're really trying to push for this, and we really want people to adapt this new technology? And I almost feel like it's the former. I don't really see that much. I didn't see that kind of push for this new system as you usually do. Uh-huh. I guess I just felt like I would have seen. I was expecting more. And not just okay, here's PS4 Pro, here's what it's going to do, here's the games it's going to work on, here's a little bit of Andromeda, here's some other trailers, what it looks like, and then okay, bye. We kind of knew what the Neo PS4 Pro was going to be, and we all just kind of figured it was going to be a faster GPU and 4K and all those kinds of things. But we were always expecting, like, what's that next, like, there's got to be something we just don't know that's, like, really unexpected that it's going to do.
Yeah, I think we even talked about it last week of, like, what if there's, like, a feature of the PS4 Pro? Like, what if maybe there's, like, not even making your games run better? Like, maybe there's something, like, on the OS itself, you know? Like, what, maybe there's some, like, maybe it'll play PS1 games. I don't know. It will let you change your PSN name. Like, you definitely saw that, right? And again, I wonder if it's just a result of your people is just easy to get your expectations out of whack. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying it's the fault of any one person. But oftentimes you see it, right? You see like that hype get to people. Mm-hmm. And I'm certainly someone who is, I'd say more positive than negative, or often than not. I think and so you can fall into that trap, and you can find yourself disappointed. And so you gotta, sometimes you have to kind of take a step back and just keep things in check. And I wonder if maybe, because the conference itself, like the PlayStation meeting itself, was much shorter than I expected it to be. And and I'm not mad or disappointed about that. There wasn't nearly as much shown as I thought there might be. And again, I'm not necessarily disappointed. I'm more just surprised that they didn't show as much as I thought they might. And it's not necessarily maybe a negative thing. I don't really know. I don't really feel like that was a bad thing. I think in general, maybe some of the negative reactions are attributed to that, of it being so short and maybe feeling a bit rushed overall.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, this is different from unveiling a new console, and that's why I've always been so fascinated by how this was going to happen. You know, how were they going to announce this thing? Mm-hmm. Because it is so different. It's this mid-generation, not even a leap, really, just a few steps forward. You know, this is the this is the N64 RAM expansion. Yeah,
that's what I'm equating this to.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think the PlayStation meeting itself, I will say, was not, you know, for a company that for the past few years has just been kind of killing it with press conferences, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe the last PlayStation experience at the end of last year. Yeah, that last PSS. That had a bit of a dud. That was a bit of a dud at the end, but it was still pretty good overall. But for a company, you know, it's stark contrast to their E3 press conference this year, right? For a company that has been just so in tune, right, and just has been killing it with press conference after press conference, that just been hitting all the right notes. We have this, which again, I think part of it is expectations just got way too crazy, right? There did not exist a world in which Rockstar was actually going to be there.
Yeah.
And we even, you know, we even kind of fantasized about the ideal of that happening, right? It's easy to fall into that. But that just wasn't going to happen. This isn't the type of place for that, for a major announcements like that. And so I think if you just take the show for what it was, I don't think it was bad. And I don't think this is arrogant Sony coming back. I think actually, like, they have a really great price point for both of their pieces of hardware.
It's really, I mean, maybe I'm just a fanboy, but it's hard to. I think it's hard to put arrogant and Mark Cerny.
Oh no!
In like
absolutely.
In the same paragraph.
Yeah, like I don't think this is Sony slowly becoming out of touch or anything. I think it's still the same Sony we've been seeing all generation. It's just that this is something different. This is something that is not necessarily going to be the major, huge success the PlayStation 4 has been. I'm sure I think it'll probably do quite fine on its own. It's not going to blow sales numbers out of the water or anything. It'll be fine, though. But I will say, even though we're saving predictions for the next part of the show, I'm going to make a potentially crazy prediction right here.
Here we go.
Collin, I think more often than not, with maybe a couple exceptions here and there, I think more often than not, the games and trailers that we see at future Sony press conferences will be captured with a original PlayStation 4. Really? Or with original PlayStation 4 hardware. And I think every once in a while, maybe one or two a press conference, but very rarely, we'll see the one or two games that'll be like, this was captured on the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Yeah.
And I think they'll continue to do that as a way that we saw certainly today, this effort to ensure that people don't feel like they're being left behind. And I think if that was I think ultimately one of the big worries when the rumor started back in March about the PlayStation 4 Pro existing, or the Neo at the time, was, does that mean I'm going to have to buy another PlayStation 4 just so I don't get left behind? And I think that question, if there was anything answered today, it was that. And I think the answer was, don't worry, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. You
don't need to upgrade if you don't want to. And I think that's a good thing. And so I think, I think it's easy to kind of be like, oh, now everything they show is going to be running on PlayStation 4. And it very well could be. You would almost say that maybe they would want to do that. They want to show the best possible.
Yeah, and because then, like, because I think of, like, if they're going to show, like, let's say next year's Advanced Warfare 2 or something. Yeah. Like,
well, Ghost 2, obviously.
Oh, obviously. The only reason I say Advanced Warfare is the Sledgehammer game comes out next year. So, like, let's say they bring that on stage, and, they could show the regular one to, like, show, like, hey, here's what it is running on regular hardware. And maybe they could do the marketing aspect of, like, just imagine how good it looks on the Pro.
Right.
But I just feel like they want to show the Pro just to sell people on the more expensive hardware, being like, hey, this is what it looks like on Pro. This is what you really want. Rather than, like, well, I mean, is it like will it be upsetting to users? Like, because I'm just spitballing here, but like Sony's already got your $400, $300 when you bought your original PlayStation. Like, I mean, are they looking now? They're looking for the people to double dip, or they're looking for brand new people to get the next one. And you just say, well, people who already have a PS4 now, they'll be like, oh man, here's Advanced Warfare 2. Like, look how much better it will probably look on the Pro rather than my regular one. And like, I don't know. I don't believe that necessarily. I'm just kind of spitballing with ideas. But yeah, I don't know. I just still feel like that little blurb will be at the bottom now.
And there's an element of this that's to push TVs. And
yeah. It'll be interesting. Curtis.
Yeah.
What if they come out with another PlayStation monitor like they did for the 3D, but they make it and it's 4K instead?
Oh, now see,
to get people in the front door.
Maybe they wouldn't have done that for the end of this year because they have now 3 things coming out over the next month and a half.
Yeah.
But man, like, wouldn't that have been something if they were like, and if you don't have a 4K TV, we've got something for you, and they roll out a 4K monitor.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I'm sure funny. Best Buy will have some deal where like 4K TV and PS4 Pro for like $1,000.
Well, there's that. I think even Xbox had I think there was an Xbox deal last Black Friday where it's like an Xbox One and a really nice TV for something like that, and I totally anticipate that happening. I've been looking at TVs myself on Amazon, found a couple like pretty good prices for TVs that look pretty good. Then also, what was the other thing? There was I think come Black Friday as well. I think come Black Friday, like the TV I have right now is fine. Like it's a good TV, but I've had it for like 7 years. About 6 years or so. So I'm also like, I'm kind of at a point where like, maybe I should go and kind of look around. And granted, maybe I'm falling into that trap. I'm falling into what they want me to do. But for the past few months, I've been thinking about, I've had my TV for like 6 years now. Maybe it is time to kind of start looking around. Black Friday's coming up. Maybe I'll find a deal there. TVs typically go on some crazy sales come Black Friday. So I'll just line up outside of Target and like 1 a.m. It'll be great. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
But the one thing I was disappointed was we're on October 25th. We're not going to see how the dog bird thing looks in 4K in PS4 Pro.
it's gonna, like, I did think very briefly about, well, what if I just wait until the 10th to play The Last Guardian? But I just don't think I can do it. I just don't think I'd be able to wait that long.
But you're going to be playing World of Final Fantasy. You're going to be playing Dark Souls 3 DLC.
Yeah, like, there is that. Like, I'd have more than enough on my plate to carry me over. I just don't think I'd be able to do it. So I'll just play through The Last Guardian like a third or fourth time on the Pro, and
yeah, because it's only about a 3-hour game, isn't it?
Yeah, like that, and that, you know what? Like, honestly though, like, that's totally another game that, man.
Yeah.
I bet that looks good.
Yeah.
I bet it'll look good, Collin. Oh my god.
I don't know.
I'm excited though. I'm excited. Like, new hardware announcements I'm always excited about that.
Yep.
Can't wait to hear about the NX. Now, Collin, maybe you're thinking, Kurt, I'm really hungry for a good press conference. You know, this week's Sony meeting, maybe it wasn't quite what you were hoping for. Maybe it just didn't have those game announcements to get you riled up. It was missing the hype.
Yeah, I was missing that Red Dead that was supposed to be there, right?
Had pretty colors. The sun was shining bright. There was a lot of climbing dinosaur robots. But maybe you're thinking, you know, it just wasn't the same. It was short. It was only 40 minutes long. You're just really hungry for just a good old-fashioned press conference.
You know, I just feel like, side note, if I would have, like, gotten the invite to, like, go to New York City and be like, yeah, like, I got to go to this PlayStation meeting. Like, it's going to be really cool. It's going to be in New York. And then I go, and then it's only 45 minutes, and that's what they show. I probably would have just felt like they wasted my time.
Well, to be fair, if you did go, you probably would have been there for a few more hours actually playing those games or seeing those games.
I guess. Well, sure, I guess I didn't think about that.
And probably being able to interview people. So, to be fair,
about this console that is really weird.
Yeah. But Collin, I do have good news for you.
What is it?
Nice, thank you.
Okay.
Sony's pre-Tokyo Game Show press conference is just next week. It is on September 13th. So we're just days away. We got a whole nother show to talk about.
I can't wait for the Umbrella Corps 2 announcement.
Don't joke. Don't joke.
You gotta joke.
So, TGS is just around the corner, and by that, I mean it starts next week. I believe on the 15th, to be exact. So, a couple days beforehand, as is the case usually, they'll have their pre-Tokyo Game Show press conference. This is where a lot of the announcements are gonna get made as far as TGS is concerned, especially PlayStation stuff. This will be where you'll have your announcements, and then the actual show itself that'll be for people to go to and actually play those games and get to see them.
Yeah.
But this is where the announcements get made, and I might not be entirely correct here, but this is pretty much the press conference as far as TGS is concerned. I think there's some other stuff, but this is the one that we'll be watching and talking about. Yeah. So first, to get things out of the way really quick, there's a couple things that we do know, sort of. A couple things. So Square Enix, I believe, has a teaser site up, or there's something going on where they're going to be announcing a new action game on the 15th. So I think there's like a countdown to the 15th or something. We don't know a whole lot about it. We don't know who might be making it, but that does exist. It might not even be on PS4. Who knows? But that's going to be announced on the 15th, so that might not be there, with this being a few days ahead of time. And then Earth Defense Force 5. It seems likely that is going to be announced. I believe that leaked. I believe that the name itself leaked somewhere in reference to an announcement that's going to get made. And I would assume that would probably be at Sony's pre-Tokyo Game Show press conference. So there's that. But Collin, here's what we did. I put together a list of things that might be there. They might show up, maybe they won't. I got a couple of long shots on there, a couple things that are probably almost definitely going to be at the press conference. So I figured we'd run down the list, talk about what we think might be there, maybe in reference to the franchise. Like, is this game going to get announced? Are they going to show this? Any other weird predictions we might have? And we'll see how it goes. So, and also in reference, just a quick rundown of a couple of the major announcements, just so you can kind of gauge an idea of what you might expect or what kind of announcements might get made at a show like this. Last year, we had the trailer reveal for Bloodborne: The Old Hunters. Gravity Rush Remastered and Gravity Rush 2 was announced. This was where Neo was announced, NIOH, of course. Let's see, Star Ocean 5 got a release date. Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 got announced. Of course, Collin, as you know, Umbrella Corps was announced at this event last year.
Yes. I believe new Hot Shots Golf, brought to you by Owl City.
Yep, new Hot Shots Golf was announced. Or like, I think did we know about that game beforehand? But this was like when it was officially given a name or something.
I don't think so. I didn't think we had heard about that game.
Couple games. There's a couple games we're going to talk about a little later. Like Vanillaware, they announced 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, which I believe we have not heard anything about since then. And then of course Tokyo RPG Factory actually officially announced I Am Setsuna there. Even though it was kind of talked about at E3 beforehand, but this is where it was officially shown. Like gameplay of it. Project Morpheus apparently was officially named PlayStation VR at this, according to this list I have up here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the tip. That's some of the announcements, just a number of them that were announced last year. So that should give you a pretty good idea of what you might expect. I thought last year's show was actually really good, and I think this year's press conference will also be pretty good as well. There's some big stuff I'm expecting at the very least. But Collin, let's just start off at the top of this list here. Hot Shots Golf.
Please. I'm excited. I haven't played. The last Hot Shots Golf game I played was on like PSP. So it's been a while since I've been in the series. The new Hot Shots Golf, like with all the different activities, you can just get in your golf cart and start driving around all over the place. I think that'd be pretty fun.
It's like Steep, but for golf.
That's a steep. What? Oh, never mind.
Because like Steep is snowboarding and skiing, but it's all mountain, and this is golfing and paragliding and. Well, anyways, sure. I hope it's there. I really hope it's there. I hope they give us a release date, because I swear we've seen this before just last year. I swear that we knew about a Hot Shots Golf game coming, or at least it's been a long time, and I'm itching. 100-foot robot golf is just around the corner, but I really want some Hot Shots Golf. So hopefully at least a release date or something. Next up on the list, Collin, you gotta get excited. You gotta be excited about this.
Oh, man.
So the Danganronpa anime has been airing since mid-July, I believe. Danganronpa V3, I believe, is the official name for the next Danganronpa game. This was announced last year. We have not heard anything about it since then. I do not believe it is set to come out this year in Japan or anything. Pretty sure that's going to be a 2017 title for NIS. But I think this would be a great place to actually, do maybe a big unveiling for it, maybe a new announcement. Depending on what the time frame is on this release, like, is it gonna, if it's coming out early next year, maybe we could get a Japanese release date. I'm expecting, this is something that I expect to come out sometime next year in Japan and the US. I'm expecting there to be a bit of a gap. I don't know how large that would be, but it seems likely that's the case. So I'm hoping we get some information. I think if we're gonna get any Danganronpa news anytime soon, it would be here, I would imagine. So hopefully something. Hopefully nothing too spoilery. I'm sure they're probably very aware of being very conscious of not spoiling anything for this, especially considering which game it is. But the anime has been going on, and that is something that's kind of like taking place in very specific parts of the timeline. So I'd imagine that, and I have to check, but I believe that should actually be getting close to wrapping up. They should be getting decently close to the end of those seasons for that anime that's running, because it's 2 separate storylines. So I would that's another reason why I think this would be good timing for them to start talking about the new game. There also is a Danganronpa VR game.
What?
That is happening. That was also announced last year. Very, very little information, but with VR coming out next month, again, would be a great time. I think in Japan it's supposed to be a launch game, supposedly. So hopefully we'll hear more about that as well, because Collin, who wouldn't want to experience Danganronpa in virtual reality?
Maybe you could play as Monokuma.
Oh, if only.
See, I know that name.
You know that name. You're well on your way.
That's all I know about Danganronpa.
Yeah.
Is that sadistic bear or whatever.
It's great. So Dragon Quest is the next thing that I wrote down on this list.
Oh boy, another thing I care about.
Yeah, we'll try to get some more stuff in for you.
No, it's okay.
Try to switch it up.
It's okay.
But you see, Collin, you should care. Dragon Quest is a wonderful franchise that does not get enough love in the US. But because this will be in Japan, this is a place where Dragon Quest does matter. So let's see. This is the anniversary year. The anniversary was back in May. What do we know? Dragon Quest Builders is out in Japan. It's been out. It is the current game of the year. It is coming out next month in the US. Dragon Quest Heroes 2 came out back in May in Japan. Actually, recently just got a demo. There was another Dragon Quest game, though, Collin. Do you know what it is?
Dragon Quest XI.
You betcha. So, okay. So Dragon Quest 11 is being developed for the 3DS, the PlayStation 4, and the NX. Supposedly, that game's supposed to be coming out, May of next year, or in that time frame. I don't know if I believe them. I want to believe. Now, that's a Japanese release. Because God knows that if it does get localized, it's probably not coming out next year in the US. I wish it would, but I can only be so optimistic, Collin. But I think this would be a great time to formally reveal Dragon Quest XI. We have seen footage of it, but it was pretty early footage. It wasn't an official trailer or anything. I think this would be a great time to start talking about it if it is indeed coming out in the spring of next year. I would love to see it. That is easily probably the game I'm looking forward to the most out of almost anything that is officially announced, other than Kingdom Hearts 3. So I would love for it to be there. I'm not confident that it will be, but I think you got to start talking about that game eventually. If it is under a year away, maybe that's something that Nintendo might want to talk about for a potential NX reveal if they ever feel like talking about that thing. But I would love for Dragon Quest XI to be there. I think that'd be cool. And maybe another Dragon Quest game gets announced or something. I don't know. I felt like they announced Dragon Quest Heroes 2 really quick.
Yeah.
So maybe a Dragon Quest Builders 2. Even though it's not technically out in the US yet, I believe they announced Dragon Quest Heroes 2 before its US release or something. I don't know. But either way, that'd be kind of neat. Let's get something that you do care about in here, Collin. You care about Resident Evil.
Yeah, I care about Resident Evil.
So, Umbrella Corps came out, and that exists.
It exists.
But let's talk about RE7.
Ooh. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Or Biohazard 7 Resident Evil.
Yes. So Biohazard 7 Resident Evil will totally be there, right? I think it's very good shot at showing up. You got any expectations for it? Do you think they might actually start showing some, some guns maybe?
Yeah, I hope we see some combat.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we maybe see some herbs.
Some herbs? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully see some typewriters.
Oh, my God. You know, how happy it would make me if you had to save via typewriter in that game?
Yeah?
It would...
Yeah.
Oh,
be cool.
It would make me so happy, Collin.
Yeah.
I would totally understand if they would rather follow more modern saving conventions where you could save anywhere and it's kind of more user-friendly in that respect. But, I was totally... in that all throughout that demo they put out, I was waiting to find a ink cartridge. I was just
Oh,
waiting.
sure.
Or just to see a typewriter sitting somewhere in a room.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. Yeah, I don't, we have a release date for that game. It's a few months away. We really haven't seen much of it, and I would like it to stay that way. But I do think at some point they're probably going to start showing more of the action side of it, because they have said, yeah, there are, and it there are guns in this game. You will be, you will fight enemies.
Yeah.
You will have your traditional Resident Evil stuff. I think this might be a good place for that stuff to start showing up.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll see. Let's see. Final Fantasy we'll talk about a little bit later. There's a few predictions I have for that. Deep Down, so like sticking into the Capcom realm, Deep Down is something that has just kind of been in my missing in action for a little while. The reason we keep bringing this up is because Deep Down was tied to the PlayStation 4 Neo rumors. It was one of the first games mentioned, if you remember. So I would say that if Deep Down is in fact still alive, this is where we'll see it. And if we don't see it at Tokyo Game Show, then I would continue to go back to my thought of that game just being dead.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hopefully we do see it, and I think you and I both are in agreement that we think that game has probably seen some significant change.
Yeah, some major revisions probably. I think you're probably in agreement with me that I don't think that game's free to play anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
Yeah.
Okay, so Neo, N-I-O-H, not the code name for PlayStation 4 Pro. Neo is something. It just had a beta. I believe the beta just wrapped up, or if it hasn't, it will in the next day or so. The game has been looking good. It's looking good, and I believe it's technically supposed to still be coming out this year. I think.
Wow.
I don't think that they've come out and specifically said, yeah, we're pushing it back to next year. This is where we will get a release, some sort of release date announcement. I think if it is coming out this year, this is where you give it a release date. If not, this is where you announce the delay. Maybe you put out a new trailer and it just straight up has a date at the end, whether that's 2016 or 2017. Could see it being, like, to me, with this game, I think it would almost be better off if you put it out in like a January, February.
See, I was thinking like December, January kind of time frame.
I would normally think December would be good, but December is kind of looking packed right now.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you could argue like, well, Neo's it's like a different genre, but you've got like Final Fantasy 15 late November, very very late November. You've got Kingdom Hearts, you've got South Park, you've got Gravity Rush 2, you've got Steep. Although Steep, Ubisoft, you should push Steep back. I know it would fall in line with winter, but give it like a January date. Polish that game. Anyways, I don't know. Like I would love to play Neo this year, but I don't know. Like, would be totally fine. But also, if they want to push it back and maybe give it some more breathing room, I can't blame them because it's gonna be a packed holiday season. So that is Neo. Collin, let's talk about Konami.
Oh, do we have to?
I mean, we don't have to, but they do have a game.
Let's talk about Pro Evolution Soccer 2017. How about them ball physics, Curtis?
Collin, I believe this is where we will see our first gameplay footage of Metal Gear Survive.
Yeah, that's probably a good bet. That's I already, like, I haven't seen what it looks like, but I already know what it looks like.
Yeah, like we know. Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I think we'll. Do we know, like, it's coming out next year? Do we know if it's like a late next year? Did they say? Do you remember?
I think they just said 2017.
Okay. Yeah, I think that game will probably show up. I mean, it might even be playable at TGS. I don't know. It really depends on what kind of state it's in. I can't imagine it wouldn't be playable. I mean, whatever. I think we'll see that game for the first time, like actual gameplay.
Yeah, I agree.
And we'll be like, oh yeah, that looks about what we expected it to look like.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's that. Let's keep on going. Collin, another of your favorites. From Software.
Oh, I love From Software.
Everyone does.
I loved Armored Core.
Mm-hmm.
on a demo that I played on the PS2 disc.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I love everything From Software has done.
Of course.
Including every Souls game that I've never played.
Yeah. So Dark Souls 3, the DLC, Ashes of... what's it called?
Eternity, I don't know.
Ashes of Eternity. That's been announced. We've had a trailer for it. So I do want. I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, it's been announced. We've already seen a trailer. I don't know what else they could necessarily show of it because we got a release date. You know, I mean, I guess they could just roll that trailer again. They could do that. It's not like
they're not the first. It's not happened before.
Yeah, it's like that's happened before. You know, they could do that. But I wonder, Colin. I wonder if maybe From Software will announce something else.
New IP?
No. Although possible.
What do you think?
I think we might get an Armored Core VR game.
That'd be neat.
That's one of my bets. It's one of my predictions.
Okay.
In a shocking reveal, we will get a trailer for Armored Core VR.
I'd be down with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now remember, I think it was it PSX or was it Tokyo Game Show last year where they announced Ace Combat 7?
It was at PSX.
That was PSX. Okay.
Yeah.
That might be a good spot for that to show up here. Being what is that? It's not Namco.
I think it might be. I think it might be
Namco.
Yeah, I think so.
Bandai Namco. Okay, I couldn't remember. Yeah, that game might show up.
That's another VR game, isn't it?
That's VR.
Yeah,
it's VR. Not exclusive.
Yeah, I don't think Armored Core will be exclusive to VR either.
Okay.
Unless it's like a small scaled down version. No, I think I feel like there has been hints that they've been wanting to do another Armored Core game, and that would be it was one of those that just makes so much sense, especially for VR. So,
yeah.
So we're on the topic of VR, Colin. Do you have any? I mean, I'm expecting lots of VR stuff at this, or in general. I think there's gonna be a number of VR related announcements, whether it's updates on Summer Lesson. Or Hatsune Miku or something.
We need, you know what we need an update on? That Dolphin Classroom game.
Yeah, we do.
What was that called? I can't remember.
Classroom Aquatic.
Yeah,
Get
we need
hyped.
an update on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would totally be down for that. That probably won't be here though.
Yeah.
Let's see. We talked about a lot of the major things. There's a couple other things. There were 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. This was the Vanillaware game announced last Tokyo Game Show. I don't believe we've really heard anything about it since then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that shows up this year, next week, as the press conference, and hopefully we'll see some gameplay of it or something, because that game looks super cool, and Vanillaware is great. I played Odin Sphere earlier this year, Luftrausers, and Leaf and that was great. It was super great. So I hope to see more from them. Hopefully this new game, for sure. And then VR, lots of VR stuff. Colin, I got a long shot here, and I don't okay. This is 80% me just really, really wanting this to happen. 20% prediction, okay? And I think I get a feeling that this is probably a long shot, but I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. So the way that NIS has been going with Disgaea, Disgaea 4 came out 2 years later. Disgaea D2 came out 2 years later. Disgaea 5 came out. So Disgaea 5 came out last year. It was announced the year before at TGS. And they've been following that pattern for the last few games. Now, granted, NIS has, without going into too much detail, it's been a little rocky, I think. But and they have been putting out Disgaea games on PC. The first one's out. I think the second Disgaea is out in January on PC. So they've been making that move too, which I think is great. I want to